So I'm Kim Solez, I'm chair of the Banff Foundation. You see the logo from the two entities. This is a save the date card. At your chair you also have promotional material for Vancouver, the draft program, and also there's a very good iPad app called Visit Vancouver, which is completely up to date. As far as I know, superior to what any other city has. It's really full function in terms of informing you about the city of Vancouver. So the meeting will be at the Sheraton Wall Center, October 5th to 10th, 2015. We're very proud in Canada of the many transplantation highlights. The ones here with asterisks are world firsts. So, for instance, in 1956, there was the first heart valve transplants, double lung transplant in 1986, islet cell transplant, and ultimately the Edmonton Protocol in 1989, and so on. A very rich history. When you think about the enterprise that we are planning in this room today, it involves Canada-wide cooperation and Canadian innovation. And that's very similar to this New England Journal paper in 1983, which really changed transplantation worldwide. It was also an excellent cooperative clinical trial venture Canada-wide. So I feel some of the same spirit about what we're doing in 2015 that I felt in '83. The Banff process, many of you know about this. It has a certain uniqueness. It's been going on now for very many years, since '91. And it's physician-led consensus generation. It includes all stakeholders, including industry and regulatory agencies. Basically, all the players are now included in our consensus process. We meet every 2 years. In the beginning, we felt we could meet only in Banff, but then people worldwide began thinking that Banff was a medical acronym. They forgot it was a town. So we discovered we could have the Banff meetings anywhere in the world we wanted to, because we had sort of redefined the word Banff. And very important offsprings. It began really with a kidney focus, but it has now basically extended to all solid organs: liver, pancreas, composite tissue graft, heart, lung, and so on, small bowel. So it is an interactive process, and that would include all of you and the segments that you represent. You can all have impact into this process. The first conference was in '91. It was very small, and the activity has grown and expanded and has integrated with many other entities, first with CADI in '95 and then with CCTT in '97. The meeting papers from the Banff meetings are very highly cited. It is the only game in town worldwide. There is no other consensus diagnostic process like this in transplantation. And we've tried to include every aspect, including genomics, gene chip, and we have working groups between meetings that move many of the important areas forward. And for most of the life of this organization, we had no infrastructure whatsoever. We just had the benign guiding hand of myself and Dr. Lorraine Rackison, and that was it. And in the modern world, it doesn't really work to have no structure. So in 2013, we created the Banff Foundation for Allograft Pathology. So we now have structure, which includes that the chair can serve for 3 years renewable once, so you know that in 5 years I'll be gone for sure. So there's some predictability. Significance of the Banff papers. You can see the way that productivity in terms of published papers has grown. And we're very proud of this. You can look at little clusters of scientists and physicians working worldwide and see how this rich intellectual activity has progressed over the 23 years since the meetings began in '91. People often tell us, and of course this can't possibly be true, that Banff is the best transplant meeting. It can't be. Of course, we don't have the resources. But why do they say that? They say that because they really enjoy the meeting. It gives them access to people and ideas that they don't get anywhere else. And there's science behind why they think it's the best meeting. This has to do with Dunbar's number and your prefrontal cortex. That your frontal cortex limits how many empathetic, close friendships you can have, and that number is about 150. If you make a new friend, you may need to get rid of an old one because your brain is limited. And so we have tended in this meeting to have most of the sessions you're interacting with about that number of people. And people are quite comfortable with that because it's within what their brain can actually do. When you get a meeting that's several thousand people, what it means is a bunch of the people you see in the hall, you really don't care what's going on with them. You're not able to see life through their eyes. With 150 people, you can. I think that's why this fallacious idea that this is the best meeting. So as we go now from a meeting of smaller size to a meeting of 600, we have to maintain that phenomenon. The next slides are CST slides, and Michael will come up and present them.
Yes, I'm presenting on behalf of the President, Dr. Stephen Paraskevas, who sends his warmest regards to everybody in the room. He is on call and actually being a doctor compared to myself. So you have heard about Banff, which is the international consensus group in generating diagnostic consensus in allograft pathology. And that does not just simply include histology, but we engaged already years ago with other diagnostic technologies or molecular diagnostic. And on the other hand, we are partnering for 2015 with the Canadian Society of Transplantation, which is in Canada the multidisciplinary engaging platform and voice of organ transplantation, as you and our colleagues from Canada definitely know. And the organization is close to 700 members, is a non-for-profit organization with long-standing ties beyond the borders of Canada, including the International Transplant Society, and is the important player in Canada for various, over the last 35 years, activities in research, education, and consensus generation in other aspects than diagnostics in Canada. For example, the HLA community is very strong, allied health, infectious diseases. And this platform worked very well, the meeting with their annual scientific meeting, and the Banff meeting is every 2 years. And for 2015, we plan to partner together. And the CST has also a lot of accomplishment over time in this regard, and one of the major recent development is also partnering with the Canadian National Network for Transplant Research, the CNTRP, the large multi-institutional program. Another strong partner of the CST in Canada is Canadian Blood Services, the National Allocation Organization. So these organizations together span essentially the full spectrum of transplantation for the 2015 meeting. This is the org chart of the Canadian Society of Transplantation. You know, we showed the org chart of the Banff Foundation, that you as industry partners see that you actually truly deal with something, with legal entities, so it's not anymore a mailbox on Cayman Islands as it was before for the Banff process. The concept for the partner for the 2015 meeting is that the Banff Foundation and the Canadian Society of Transplantation have formed a joint meeting organizing company, a non-for-profit company under Canadian law. You see the individuals here, it's co-shared by Dr. John Gill and myself for the two organizations, and there are members on the board from both organizations, which a lot of you probably know, Antoni Jeffnikar, David Rush, Dennis Glotz from Paris, Kim Solez, Marcello Kantarovich, Mark Hars, and Stephen Paraskevas. And they oversee a joint planning committee of numerous people being here in the room, which is co-shared by Dr. Alexandre Lupi and Dr. Prasanto Chaudhry from Toronto and Paris. And there is a joint finance committee. So this is a transparent meeting organizing company with, I think, a very stable framework legally and process-wise and organizational-wise. This morning we discussed the joint program. We have a layout. What will happen is that it will be a one-week meeting starting on Monday, ending on Saturday. On Monday and Tuesday you have pure Banff activity starting with a pre-meeting. And then there are working groups around Banff which are organ specific, but the major focus is in the middle of the meeting where you have large joint plenary sessions of both organizations and concurrent sessions in the afternoon and the next morning, and then a CST focused and subgroup focused program on Friday afternoon and Saturday. So a full week of transplantation in Canada, in Vancouver, in early October. What could there be better in the world? And we discussed the major ideas we want to focus on at the meeting and during these joint plenaries. And one is around, or the pre-meeting is around new molecular diagnostics and to generate consensus. And the joint activities will be around defining new and better endpoints for clinical trials, especially in antibody-mediated rejection. And the other area is around developing clinical decision support or decision guideline tools and the health economic implications in how to manage transplant patients based on diagnostic results from various sources, the biopsy, the HLA phenotype, the risk profile. And that in tying in how to clinically manage and treat patient situations in a risk stratified manner. So currently this is all done more or less on personal experience and opinion at each center, but we think that this meeting will be a good framework to start generating consensus, which would be then internationally acceptable around this. We expect between 500 to 600 international delegates for that meeting, and we knew from the past that it is very multidisciplinary. It's not only pathologists, which scares a lot of people being in a room with only pathologists. We have always basic scientists at the meeting. The HLA group is heavily represented because the Canadian presence in that area is strong, and we have strong European presence at the program committee. All subdisciplines of transplant physicians from various areas and related to various organs will be present, and through the CST we also engage with the allied healthcare group, and we have very strong encouragement to trainees and fellows to participate in the meeting and present posters and abstracts. So this is what we plan for 2015. And we strongly hope that this is compelling to our industry partners and would be, in our opinion, a very good venue for you to be present and reaching a large international and North American and Canadian audience in wonderful Vancouver. And our host in Vancouver, I heard all drinks are on Dr. Gill from Providence Health. Isn't that what I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike. I think if I may, I think me and the people that are on the steering committee of this, the thing that really is exciting about this is, I think everybody in the room knows that the strengths of these two meetings independently is the collegiality, the communication, and the connectivity that happens at those meetings. We believe we can bring those elements together in a unique way in a joint meeting that really will not only discuss the science from a molecular diagnostic perspective, but also frame the issues and a path forward. So how are we actually going to integrate these technologies with advance the science of transplant medicine. And I think a lot of the discussion we had as a very informal sort of freelancing discussion this morning was around some very practical aspects for clinicians to translate this into practice and really framing the types of studies we need to do to move the field forward. Because I think safe to say what we're having is an explosion of knowledge, but not necessarily that coming to the clinical realm. So I think that's something that will uniquely happen here. There'll be a discussion between clinicians and people at the forefront of the science. So I think that is what will be unique about this. As Kim said, the meeting will not be so large that you'll be one of a number. You definitely will be connected, and we're going to embed some things directly to make sure that happens. For example, embedding fellows in our planning committee so that we don't lose people along the way, that we actually engage people. They're not scared of pathologists. You can talk to them. I found I can talk to Michael now, which is a transformative thing. But I think that those will really be the strength. The other aspect of having you guys come here actually is this meeting is at a very early planning stage. And we do view our industry partners as integral in terms of even framing some of the concepts of the meeting. How do we move the field forward? What are the types of studies that we need to do? What do the challenges you folks see from a regulatory, economic, and practical perspective? We want to hear about those, and where possible, I think we are early enough in the planning stage to incorporate some of those ideas where it makes sense. So that's one of the main reasons to have you guys come to this thing, not to just put it on your calendar as a placeholder. And so we really want to hear that, and I think this is sort of a kickoff to hopefully, over the next number of months, some fruitful discussions about areas where we really should, in a unique way, not only have these two societies come together, but also to engage our industry partners, and we're also, in our preliminary comments, to talk about involving regulatory people. So we really want to frame the issues as well as discuss the science in what I think will be a very communicative forum. And I'm very confident that these two groups, I mean, already, I think there's a lot of energy here, and so I hope you guys can sense that. And really, I hope this opens a dialogue for some of the things you guys think are important that should be incorporated in terms of moving this field forward. So that's what we're going to do longer. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, no, thank you. As Dr. Gill said, we are still early, and early enough for you giving input, because we have slots in the program for industry-sponsored symposia and the major topics. And we also want to have, as always desired from Banff meetings, an outcome. We just do not want to give a platform to present science, but there is room always in the program to synthesize this, which leads to a change in clinical practice. And I think we all agreed on that this is important to happen in a dialogue with the industry partners, because it's also important for you to plan your next activities, and that to know what is in your pipeline, but what is coming at the clinical end. And this, in the past, was always a relationship between the Banff group, because, as you know, the first clinical trials were based on the Banff classification. And the Banff classification actually came out of this pull and push relationship with the industry trial needs, that they had no endpoints. So it is what John summarized very nicely. That is a backbone of this meeting. It is not too big. And that is where you have, starting from today on, the opportunity to communicate to any of the members of the planning committees and the joint committees to feedback and give your input. So if you can start now, or you can grab the free coffee and enjoy the nice weather, but it is that you have a face to the people, know who to talk to, and we will follow up with you definitely. But we're happy to take any questions if you have.
So any questions? We've been so outstandingly clear in this joint presentation.
Well, but please take the material, yeah, and this is the opportunity from now on to start the dialogue, and we will feed it back to the program committee as well.